Peace to all beings, mercy. Peace to all beings, and mercy. What you're seeing now in society is the battle between God's will and the individual's will. Proof of God's will: you were born a male, you're supposed to be a male. You were born a female, you were supposed to be a female. That's God's will in your birth. And whatever culture you were born in, that's God's will. You didn't have a choice in it. Now, to understand God's will, you need to get into the prayer mode, to understand the why of you being you, for what reason. You need to, because the human condition hasn't an idea of what's going on now. You can see it in your cultures. I'm not just talking about the American culture. I'm talking civilization in general. There's a battle going on between God's will and man's will. Mankind's will, I should say. If you're born a female, you must understand that is your position in the situation that you're in, whatever culture it is. If you're born a male, you must understand that's the situation you're in. You have to understand it. How did you become a male? Because you wanted to be? How did you become a female? Because you wanted to be? No, it was God's will. So I'm trying to impress upon people right now the necessity for prayer. You were born in a religion or somewhere around it. It was there. That was God's will. And man's free will is to understand the Father's will. That's the purpose of it. That's the purpose of it. We are in that now in consciousness. That's why there's so many arguments going on all over the place about everything, about anything, because the human being thinks it needs verbiage to identify itself and make excuses for itself. So please, in the understanding of this learning, teaching, look at Psalm 6. Psalm 6, and particularly pay attention to verse 10, because you're being influenced by entities you can't see. Some of you can see them, some of them can feel. Everybody's feeling them now. That's the influence going on now. You beings call it craziness, but it's out of jurisdiction of man's free will. It is sort of a Babylon Empire going on now, trying to establish that thing, to climb the mountain, to reach the heavens, to overcome the Father. That's not going to happen. You must understand the necessity for prayer. It's becoming apparent now that that is what is lacking. Pick a prayer. Pick a prayer that comes from the religion that you were born into, because that was God's will, that you were born into that religion or around it for some reason, purposefully for the intent of your spiritual growth. And that's what's going on the planet now. The only way you're going to stabilize the situations now are prayers. The more prayers, the easier this is going to be. The more prayers, the easier this is going to be. It's time now not to look in the past, because this force is coming fast, and it's the Father running with the Son. S-O-N. Please be merciful to one another and thankful that you have a consciousness that can understand something besides the selfishness of self. And the understanding of selfishness of self is actually spiritual wisdom, because you become selfish in the understanding of the Father in yourself, the connection there. No one in between. You and the Father, and you and the Mother, and you and Jesus, and you and John the Baptist. Jesus is Jesus, John the Baptist is John the Baptist, and both were baptized by the Holy Spirit, Jordan River. That's what we're dealing with now. The availability of that knowledge is for everyone, but whether you want to pay attention or not, that's entirely up to you. Remember, you're attunement to the Father is through the sex that you were born in and the understanding of God's will. And whatever culture it is, doesn't matter, because it was Father's will that put you there. Peace and mercy to all beings. And there's a need to pray for everyone, not just yourself. Pray for the ones that are in the astral, because they need help too. They're more confused than some of the beings down here, because they're still trying to influence humanity, and not in the proper way. But that's another teaching. Peace to all beings and gentle with one another. We are through.